Lieutenant Edward W. Tourigny, U.S. Army Air Corps. Ed Tourigny was born December 4th, 1918 in Newmarket, the son of Alphonse and Alice Tourigny, the owners of a small farm and milk delivery business. All through school, St. Mary's and later Newmarket High School, Ed worked on the family farm. During summers, he kept busy with haying and with extensive vegetable gardening, selling corn, tomatoes, cucumbers, onions, and carrots. He would fit a dozen ears of corn in the basket of his bike and peddle the corn around town for 25 cents a dozen. He milked the cows and prepared the milk in the milk cooler prior to helping his father deliver the milk and cream from their small Chevy truck. The milk cooler experience helped him get employment with a firm in Manchester, where he became an expert in air conditioning. He also worked for a few months at the Portsmouth Naval Shipyard before entering the armed service. On February 15, 1940, Ed was drafted into the Army and was sent to Fort Devens, Massachusetts, where he was enrolled in the Army Air Corps. 2 days later, he was en route to Biloxi, Mississippi. He was a bit confused because he had mentally prepared himself for Army combat on the front, but the Army saw his mechanical ability and sent him to a 6-month aircraft mechanic school. Upon leaving Biloxi, he went to Westover Field, Massachusetts, where he became a group inspector, as well as an instructor on the mechanics of the P-47 Thunderbolt aircraft. At that time, there was a major mechanical problem with the P-47s. The exhaust gases from the 2,000 horsepower engines swept back along the fuselage and entered the plane through the tail wheel aperture. Inside the aircraft, the gases became concentrated enough to cause an explosion. The manufacturer recognized this hazard and put a boot over the opening. However, this boot had a tendency to tear very soon after installation. Ed worked on the problem and designed a new boot, which had a life expectancy of between 200 and 300 flying hours, and which completely eliminated the danger of a possible ignition from the accumulated gases. For this invention, he received the U.S. Legion of Merit Award. As commended by Brigadier General Glenn Barkas and reported in newspaper articles, quote, "The award came to him while he was piling up a record for efficiency and capability by becoming a flight leader and by teaching a course in specialized supply as well as being an officer's candidate." End quote. Colonel L.C. Greggy is quoted as saying, quote, "It is gratifying to know that among the maintenance personnel we have charged with the responsibility of keeping this truly fine airplane in commission, we have such individuals, like yourself, who are able to perform the function of technical inspection in such an intelligent and constructive manner. The practical contribution you have made to the P-47 airplane has saved the lives of untold numbers of pilots." End quote. Ed served on various bases: Keesler Field, Mississippi, Mitchell Field, New York, and Shannon Field, Illinois, before enrolling in the OCS, Officer Candidate School, in Miami. He attended additional aviation classes in Maxwell, Alabama, which often ran 10 to 12 hours per day. After graduation, he returned to Westover Field for anti-sub duties. He practiced for 3 months, dropping depth charges flying between Presque Island, Maine, and Goldsboro, North Carolina. However, as there were no German subs off the U.S. coast, 62 B-25s were transferred from the Air Corps to the Navy. The planes were then painted light blue and gray before they set out on their bombing runs. On April 8, 1944, while stationed in Miami, he received his wings and commission. He was assigned to Kelly Field in San Antonio, where his goal of becoming a military test pilot became a reality. Kelly Field was Ed's home base between assignments. Besides being a test pilot, he was also in charge of engine overhauls and the propeller plant at Kelly Field, the largest air depot in the world. On April 28th, at Kelly Field Chapel, he married Newmarket hometown girl Doris Marcotte. They were married at 9 a.m., but he had to leave Doris and Kelly Field at 6 p.m. that same night to go on a 4-week engineering trip to test the B-25D for durability on long-distance bombing runs. The B-25D proved to be ideal. The planes were assembled at Anchorage, Alaska, and from there they flew bombing runs to Japan. After leaving active duty in Kelly Field late in 1944, Ed and Doris returned to Newmarket. He immediately enlisted in the Army Air Corps Reserves in Manchester for 2 years' service, finally being discharged in 1946 with the rank of second lieutenant. In civilian life, Ed kept as active a schedule as he did in the military. Initially, he worked at the Navy Yard for a while, went to school to learn drafting, worked for Jesse Carpenter and Turcotte's hardware store until he bought and operated Griffin Hardware in Newmarket from 1953. Ed and Doris had 2 children, Roxana and Pam, and 3 grandchildren. During this time, he was very active in town activities. He was a commissioner on the board of the Newmarket Housing Authority and was instrumental in obtaining financing for Great Hill Terrace. He and David Moore became EMTs and trained the Boy Scout Explorer Post for ambulance work and blood drives. He taught CPR at McKellen's, Kingston Warren, and other area businesses. For years, he collected donations for Christmas decorations and hung the Christmas lights downtown himself. He then worked at Green Rubber in Cambridge, Massachusetts, until he tired of commuting and retired in 1984. An avid carpenter, he built houses and worked for several years for Turcotte's Housing, and later filled some of his retirement time working part-time for John Carpenter at the greenhouses. After his marriage to Lola Sewall, who was a trustee of the library, Ed could be seen volunteering at various library functions. Ed was a 60-year member of the Robert G. Durgan American Legion Post 67. He would proudly dress in his military uniform, and he never missed marching in the Memorial Day Parade. After a period of failing health, Ed died on February 1st, 2005, at Portsmouth Hospital. He is buried in Calvary Cemetery.